So I hit the go live.
There we go. We're live.
All right.
So what?
I guess I start since
Yeah.
this is my thing. Yeah. Hi. Hi, I'm Joel Flanagan-Grannemann. I'm the author of the Servants of the Moon and Sun series. My fourth book, which I left in the other room because I had to run to get to another place, just came out yesterday. It's Mother of Exiles. It's the fourth book in my series, Servants of the Moon and Sun, but it's also an alternate entry to the series. And I'm here with Timothy Wolff and Miriam. How do I say your last name?
Yvette.
Yvette. Thank you both for coming and joining me on this. It's been a little bit of technical difficulties on my end, so hopefully my Wi-Fi will stay where it is right now. We're sitting right next to my router, so hopefully things will go well.
We're all good.
So this is the first time. This is the first time I've spoken to you both in real form and camera form, but other than text form on Twitter and Blue Sky. So how are you guys doing?
Doing good. You know what's funny is I always forget your actual name is Joel because you're Servants and on Twitter and Blue. So I always forget what your actual name is.
That's my actual name. I don't know if that was something, I don't know. Maybe I'll change it eventually, but it just seems to be just Brandon for the series. So that's what I did.
When I came across Servants and in your first book, I was like, oh, there it is. I found it. Are we losing them?
Oh, that's me. That's me. No, I'm still here. I seem to be lagging a lot.
That's all right. We'll make this work.
Yep.
So I always wanted to ask you this, and now we're on camera. Do you actually have a raccoon?
No, we don't. No, I don't.
Okay. I was really excited that there was
I got my raccoon shirt on.
Okay, nice.
You can see that.
Whoa.
That's a great shirt.
But no. The whole raccoon thing comes from my wife. She, as a kid, she raised some orphaned raccoons, and Sammy was one of those. So in kind of tribute to him, he's the one who was always getting into the bread. I make posts about Sammy once. Sammy's obsessed with bread, so Sammy would always get into the bread boxes in her parents' kitchen. So that's where that comes from. And I guess raccoons love bread. I guess that's one of the things. So it started out as a way to just make her smile, just to amuse myself. So it's just become a thing, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, you're the raccoon guy, and I mean that in all the best way.
In all the best ways.
Anytime I see raccoon media, I'm like, I have to loop in Joel. Like, we have raccoons in New York, and I was always raised to be afraid of them. Like, they kind of just it's all raccoon propaganda, but they tell you they all have rabies and they're going to attack you. So it's been eye-opening meeting people who actually
Well, I mean, you got. Oh yeah, you got to be careful because a wild animal is still a wild animal. You don't want to be approaching some wild animal that comes up to you because of potential that it may have rabies or it may be have something going on. But I mean, it's a fun thing for my brand. It's just what I do. Like you got your lizards and.
Did you see the video of the raccoon falling down JFK Airport through the ceiling?
Oh yes. Yes, I did that.
And another stupid question from my end. Do they have raccoons in California?
Yeah, actually there's one around my mom's neighborhood, and we thought it was like a dog or something, but I mean, they have little fingers, but I haven't run into one, but
okay.
There's some out there.
They knock your garbage over? Because that's what they do here.
Luckily, my mom's garbage is way out in the front, so I think they're smart enough to stay away from the road,
When I had my first apartment, I had like 6 bricks on top of the garbage pail to stop the raccoons. and they would still knock it down. I don't know what powers these things possess, but they can knock it down.
They're smart. They're smart.
Yeah.
It's their fingers.
And I always love that GIF of the raccoon playing the piano. It's just,
Oh yes, yeah, that's fun. I pulled that out for, I pulled that out for this one for promoting this.
So how does it feel having another book out?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great because we've been working on this book for quite a while. Actually, the editing took a lot bit longer than it usually does. Well, it has for the past 3 books, because summer events conspired against us. We had a whole bunch of things happen, around here, and so we got delayed on the editing and got delayed in starting the audiobook because we haven't even started recording the audiobook yet. So hopefully she'll be starting that within the next couple of weeks, so we wanted to get them all out together. But doesn't look like that's going to happen. So hopefully, I don't know a timeline on getting the audiobook out.
Yeah. So your
I don't know a
wife does the
timeline on
audiobook?
getting the audiobook. Yeah, she does the recording, the editing, and the mixing. She does everything. We're as indie as they get. We do everything but the covers.
Awesome.
She's awesome.
That's really cool.
Oh yeah, she is. She is awesome. She keeps my author boat afloating. So she deals with all the website stuff, the mailing list stuff. She does the editing, of course. I mean, I do the writing, and we work on it together. So, she's the engine and the everything else for my
really cool.
author boat.
So you pretty much write
Yeah, it is
something on Word. You hand it to her and say, "Make this beautiful."
Yes.
A little bit. Fix my grammar. In other words, I'm very bad at grammar. So that's one of the things she has to. The first few passes on the chapters are, it's very grammar heavy, and dealing with that.
That's always tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
And is the main character pronounced Talia or Talia?
Talia.
Talia. Okay.
Talia, because of the H, right?
Yep.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Isn't it Talia?
No.
Or am I wrong?
Oh yeah.
That's just the way I pronounce it. I think
that's fine.
It's the I guess that's the way you do it. But yeah, yep, that's it. So Tim, you've read the first book, right?
Yes, I read the first one, and I gotta say, I was not expecting you to go places you went to. I think in my review I called it Fern Gully meets the Poppy Wars, and that's not a sentence you really hear too often.
Yeah, no.
Because
I've never.
I thought based on the first 2 chapters, it would be like this whimsical tale of fairies being happy and dancing. And then like just genocide and all sorts of things. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. It went surprising places, but it's fun. It's really it's really fun to watch, to read, it was really fun to write and I'm a discovery writer, so I'm a pantser. So I discover these characters and I learn from them, and they take me on the journey with them. So that's kind of what I do.
Well, I'm a big fan of books where the tone is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm currently reading your book, Excalibur's. What's it called? Excalibur's something.
Excalibur's King.
Yeah, and there'll be like a really sad scene, and then the next scene is pure comedy, and it's like the whirlwind of emotions going on.
Yeah, I will whiplash you in that book.
I love that though. I think that's how stories should be written. You never let people be comfortable. You just
be on your
move them
toes.
around. Like I had a review on my second book, Tears in the Maelstrom, and the reader was kind of like, I like this, but I really don't appreciate how it goes from really depressing to like pure comedy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's just how I write.
It's a good twist. You just gain the best of both worlds.
Because I don't like to just leave one theme. Like if the whole book is depressing, that's no fun.
And I mean, that's life too.
Exactly. There's this, and you can't have comedy's tough because you can't have an entirely hilarious book like from beginning to finish. Although it kind of doesn't have the emotional pull. At least that's how I feel. But if you get them in there at just the right time, sometimes it works.
Yes. Oh yeah.
If you like changes in tone, book 2 is definitely one, because it starts out differently than it ends. So I'll simply say that. So and it was very deliberate in its the change, the switch in tone from the beginning of the book to where it ends up in the kind of the middle and the end. So be prepared for that.
Yeah. And so I think you mentioned that this book, the one coming out yesterday, is book 4 and or a new jumping on point.
Yeah, you can start. You can of course read them all in order, but also you can also start with this book, because at the end of book 2, a lot of the characters go off in various different directions, and this follows book 3 followed the fairies, and then book 4, this Mother of Exiles, follows Kanan and Spear, one of the fairy ladies, as they return to the Exile Forest. So you get, I mean, if you start with the book, you can follow the story, because it's all very self-contained, and there's pretty much all these new characters that are in the Exile Forest. But you get some, if you've read the other books in it, you get some more depth to it. But it's a perfect start. It's a good starting off point too.
Okay, so this one does not follow Talia, is that correct?
No, she's referenced, but she's not in this book.
That's a bold move.
Yeah,
I do respect that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's where the story took me. And because at the end of book, as I said, is at the end of book 2, the characters split off in several different directions, and I'm kind of framing this whole series as a series of arcs, because there's going to be the fairy arc, which pretty much starts with the 3rd book, which is Fairy Court in Exile. That's going to follow the fairies in their journey, and then Mother of Exiles starts the Exile Forest arc of it, which pretty much is going to follow Aurora through her childhood and beginning adulthood. And then there's going to be another arc, which is going to cover a lot of the kind of middle grounds, the Elianites, or the half fairies, which is going to follow for a book coming out probably to 2 years from now, which is going to follow Rose, who is a human, but she's going to get involved with the Elianite quest for civil rights, essentially. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So, I mean, it's not. I was talking about this to somebody else yesterday, that people worry about starting a series that doesn't really have an end point, or isn't completed. And I don't know what to tell you, dude. This is my story. This is what I'm writing, and I mean, it's gonna wind up being like a Wheel of Time, whole bunch of volumes. So and that's why we're trying to frame it in a way that you can start with Mother of Exiles, and you can go forward or back, and forward with the new books, and then backwards to the other 3 books. So that's
cool.
We're hopefully it'll work. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things go.
Listening to all of that, it sounds like you've made a very complicated world.
I think I have. And that's another thing my wife does. My wife JJ does is maintain the World Bible, which has all the characters and the places that we go, and she has to update it with every book. So I hold a lot of stuff in my head, but also I've got notes everywhere. I've got notes on my phone. I've got notes in Scrivener and Word about things I want to do. Just a kind of a basic outline for things going forward. So it's a complex world. There's a lot of moving parts, because there's pretty much there's going to be 3 different storylines going forward, and eventually they're going to all merge together. But I haven't gotten to that point yet, because the next book is going to be a sequel to Mother of Exiles that's going to continue with Kanan and Spear's story. and continue with Aurora growing up. And then I think Rose's book is next after that one, which is going to follow her in her journey to find her daughter, because Rose is the human queen and the wife of Bastille. So it's fun. And those books are written. We just we're waiting on getting them edited. So probably next year for the sequel, and then a year after that for Rose's book. And then finally, I'm going to probably go back to Talia's story at that point after that. So, it's.
So do you know how many
there's a lot.
It's going to be?
Actually, I don't really.
Okay. It sounds like you do.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the basic plan is I've got those six planned, and then there's going to be probably a book about Aurora growing up, which leads up to the triggering of the curse, and then there's going to be a book which follows another set of children as they grow up in the fairy realm, and then. And I'm not sure how we're going to interspace Rose's story of the Elianites and living in the civil unrest in Elan, which is the area between the two, between the fairy realm and the human realm. It's kind of a DMZ between them, and that's where a lot of the half fairies live. But it's also the border between the human and the fairy realm is kind of fluctuates as the different as the wars happen between them. So it's got all these Elan towns that have their own little names that are kind of caught between the two realms. So and after that, with the triggering of the curse, the things are going to start to come together with the various storylines starting to come together, and that'll be probably a couple books. But At this point, I'm really focused on the next two or three books. So we'll go from there. We'll see. We'll see how things go.
That is fascinating to me, because I'm a much more simple man. I write 3 books and you're done. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, and there's nothing, of course, nothing wrong with that. You tell your story in three volumes, and then you're done. You move on to something else, and that's great too.
Do you have any favorite tropes, or if you can name 3 tropes that are in your series, what would they be, the major ones?
A lot of the big tropes are found families. There's a lot of found families in these books. The healing power of love and passion, how and recovery,
nice.
Recovering from trauma. There's a lot of Tim knows there's a lot of trauma that happens in some of
There's
some
an
of these
overwhelming
books.
amount of trauma.
And Spears got a lot of trauma. She's got a lot of things that happened to her in the first 2 books, and there's a lot in her backstory too. So she's got a lot of stuff to recover from, and so a lot that's and there's a lot of focus, in the 3rd book about PTSD and recovery from that, because there's a lot of things happen in book 2. So, there's a lot of things that the characters have to recover from, and trying to find a way through it. And then, then there's, I love using magic, because, it's a lot of wish fulfillment in ways. The fairies use telekinesis in a very casual way. They'll open doors and pick up cups and bring, send things away and grab things, and it's just they use their magic because it's part of them, so they use it in very casual ways. So I really love that, because we grew up with Star Wars and the Force, and grew up with and I grew up reading a lot of books by Julian May. I don't know if you're familiar with her, or Catherine Kurtz. Catherine Kurtz writes the Dearney series, and her magic. She does a lot of ceremonial magic and a lot of telepathy, and that influenced very much how the fairy magic works, because there's a lot of telepathy, there's a lot of ceremonial magic, a lot of warding. So it's fun.
I like that, because you don't have to write, and then she walked to get the cup. It's just just come to me.
There's a lot of steps.
Yes, yeah, and sometimes you can get bogged down in those little details, and that's something my wife is JJ. That JJ is always kind of going me on. You don't need to write every step they take. They come into the room, they open the door, they sit down. Okay, move on.
Yes.
Just get to the point.
My bad habit was saying they drifted towards the blank, and someone pointed out I wrote that like 1,000 times. I was like, all right, point taken. You know?
If it works, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that word drifted because it's not
That's-
walked, but it's the same thing.
It
So
drifted.
it's like, yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
smooth. It drifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was writing the Fairy Queen in the first book, she would float into rooms, or she would drift into rooms, or she would just kind of. And the keeper does that too. She kind of floats around. She's the keeper is the high priestess of the goddess, and she'll kind of float into rooms and just very graceful because that's focusing the fairies being very graceful and very moving, very 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 deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go ahead and play Ko's thing right now?
Sure. Is there a
Let's go
video
ahead.
too, or just gonna hear?
I don't think so. No, it's just an audio. So I'll go ahead
Okay.
and play it right now.
That I can't be here tonight. I feel like I'm missing out on something very special with Joel and Tim, two of the most supportive members of the writing community. I will definitely have to catch up with both of you at another time. But right now I just want to celebrate the release of Joel's latest book, Mother of Exiles. I have read the first two books in his series, Servants of the Moon and Sun, the first being Talia Heir to the Fairy Realm, and the second, Talia on the Shore of the Sea. And I can't recommend them enough to anyone who is looking for strong world building, non-human cultures, characters who relate to each other in such unique ways. The way he distinguishes the humans from the fairies and the Elenites, and writes such different characters. It's a large cast of characters, and each one of them has such an interesting arc, and you never know how they're going to react to different situations, and yet it's all very much within character. It's all very well thought out, and this series continues to surprise me. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading Mother of Exiles and learning more about the half-fairies or Elenites. Joel said that I could share a little bit about the two artworks that he'd commissioned me to do a while ago. The first one features Talia, who is essentially the main character in the first few books in this series, and she's a very strong, commanding presence. She wears many beautiful gowns over the course of each book, and so I actually chose one of the softer gowns just to contrast with the very intense look that she has. And then we have Kanan, who is going to be appearing in Mother of Exiles. He has been in the other books, but I'm looking forward to learning more about him. He seems to be a character that's a bit like Aragorn or Robin Hood, a very noble but unpretentious sort of man. And I love the braid he has over his shoulder. Joel gives lots of details regarding not so much
I saw that.
the way the
Yeah,
character
that was a great
looks,
picture.
but the way they hold themselves, how they dress, how they wear their hair, and I really enjoy
She
it
has a very
when
distinct style
people
when she
do
draws.
unique things with non-human characters.
It's
So
funny, I can recognize
in
a
his
Miriam
world,
or a Co
the
picture like
fairies
right away.
have silver
I've seen so many
eyes,
of them
but
now.
they have slanted cat-like
I love her
pupils,
voice.
and the
It's very
Elenites,
relaxing.
who are only
Yeah.
half fairy,
I'm going to
have
make
a
her do this
mixture
for
of
every
white
book
and
I ever
silver
release now.
eyes,
I was-
and their
I was about to
pupils
type
are
this.
more
I'm about to
oblong,
just type this
so
right now.
a bit less noticeable. It's really a phenomenal world that you can enter into, and I encourage readers to pick up these books and support Joel. So have an amazing evening together, and I will catch up with the replay. Hello,
That was nice.
FanFiAddicts podcast.
Yes, that was very nice.
I am
there you
Joel
go.
Lansdale,
Oh, yes.
and I'm so
Gotta pause it. There, that's a better version. That's a better version of those two arts.
I love that.
I was so blown away when she asked if she could do these two characters, and I just
Yeah.
this is really amazing. I really love her art style. It's really cool, and I love
She
how
did
he.
the title page of my novella, which I'll try to show. Let me see, with the little dagger.
Oh yes, I love that knife. That is so
Okay.
Yeah.
cool.
And it's funny because she mentioned that you gave her a lot of details. I don't give any details. I'm just like, hi, please draw me a dagger. Thanks.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Actually, let me was it in here? This isn't the best picture, but this is from my third book, Age of Arrogance. She also did the title page for this one. And if you read this book, that's the Goddess of Fear in David, which is a
Oh
scene from the first book.
right.
Yeah. So that was cool.
Oh yeah, she's really great. I
love
mean, I
Yeah,
just.
she's awesome. She's so nice too. I mean, it's like, and
Oh
it's funny
yeah.
because her book is rough. Like,
Dark.
yeah. Miriam, have you read Far Removed?
Yeah, I read the. I listened to the
Okay.
audiobook.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's even better. Yeah.
Yeah. It's dark. Like
That's-
I told her, every time I envision it, I always see like in themes of like blue hues, like in darkness, and audio. I'm sorry, the dialogues, especially the internal thoughts that they have. It's just like,
It actually legitimately made me upset because, like, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So when I read the novella, I was like really untrusting. I was like, when are you gonna hit me? I'm waiting for it. But it was actually very, very enjoyable light read. There was no horrendous plot twist at the end.
Yeah, so she's got a little bit of body horror in her books. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't want to get into spoilers, obviously, but it's at least anytime I read a book and one of the characters is in trouble, I'm like, oh, how are they gonna get out of this?
Mhm.
And sometimes they don't get out of it, and that's
Yeah.
that's a tough thing to write,
yeah, it
Mhm.
is. It is.
Very
especially
true.
because
Excuse me.
she uses dual POV, so there's only two characters.
Mhm.
So you're kind of just like, well, these characters, nothing can happen to them because it's but that so
Yeah.
very well done is what I'm trying to say, but I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, she's. I haven't read her books yet, but what everybody said about them, I'm really looking forward to it. And if I can find the time, to do that.
Do you plan on commissioning her for any more artwork? Or is there more artwork we have to look forward to?
We're running on a string shoe budget here, so
Yeah.
I don't know. We really need to. I see all this really great art from other people have for their characters and for their books, and it's just you get jealous that
Oh yeah, that is
yeah, I wish I could afford to we'll see. Hopefully these books will start will sell pretty good, and we can afford to do a little bit of commission art and do all the kind of marketing, a little bit more of the marketing stuff that I've been just doing myself on Twitter. And I know you guys are in the same boat, that you don't have really, that you're pretty much doing it all yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exhausting. But I don't want. While we're talking about artists, I do want to shout out Miriam because her art is amazing.
Thank you.
That video you made for me of arrogance to Sabrina Carpenter was like the greatest thing ever.
Oh my gosh, I have to confess to you, I don't really follow like a lot of mainstream, so that was the first time I ever listened to her.
Really?
I'm gonna admit that.
Oh man,
I love her music now, thanks to you. She's so pretty. I saw her. I was like,
yeah.
I've seen some of her live shows, and I was like, wow, like seeing like the voice and the person. I was just like, yeah, you made me into a fan.
I'm glad. That's wonderful.
So Miriam, do you do your own covers?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
We know that.
No, yeah. I do them all. Just honestly, it's just really, it's just one of the risks you take as an indie author is you have to do everything by yourself, and you have to decide: am I going to, finance this, or am I going to do it myself? So, obviously, as a creator, I did that all by myself. But I was going to ask you, have you done any book events or any Comic Cons, any type of like stuff like that? Because I would really recommend that for you.
I've not yet. There's a local con, Con Carolina, which is up in Charlotte at the beginning of June. We've been going. My wife and I have been going there for years,
Oh,
and I applied. I applied last year to try to get on a panels, and I didn't get in. So hopefully, I'm applied again this year. But I also added on. I wanted to have a merch table. So hopefully that will get me on both. Get me. I mean, if I can get a merch table, that'd be great too. But if I can get on panels too, that would be great.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, we're planning on doing that. And then we've been looking at a couple other local cons here in the South Carolina, North Carolina area.
Renaissance fairs? Sorry.
I don't know if there's that many around.
Okay, because I was going to say Fantasy and Renaissance Fair. Perfect. Like if a lot of the attendants would go, they're just up as fairies. So I feel like your book and them, it would just like instant. They would instantly be interested.
I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know what is around here. So maybe there's something toward the coast over in Charleston, or something in the upstate, or up by Charlotte. So that is an idea. Thank you. We will have to look into that.
And Miriam did a really good YouTube video on like the finances of cons, and I would definitely recommend watching that because I don't know any of that stuff. I've never done a con.
And I haven't finished the last 2 parts, so thank you for reminding me.
But I don't want to swear real quick, but I noticed Adam in the comments said Miriam did an amazing cover. Did you do MagicCon?
Not the one that Adam has at the moment. Hey, Adam. But
okay.
Adam has a new cover that's currently behind the curtains that he plans on revealing soon.
Okay, that's cool.
And it's actually coming sooner than we expected. He's also might commission me for the next cover as well. But definitely look forward to it because I did some animations for his book cover.
Yeah.
And
cool.
So, what are the odds of you showing it right now, or is that not going to happen?
I couldn't. I couldn't.
Okay. I'm really curious. That's awesome, though.
Mm-hmm.
I just commissioned my artist because I'm going to do a re-release of Platinum Tinted Darkness next year.
Mm.
So I'm doing massive rewrites, a new cover, and a dust jacket, which I'm really excited for.
Oh,
ooh, dust jacket.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about the hardbacks from Amazon. They don't have dust jackets on it, so they look like textbooks.
Yeah.
But they're still cool. But they look and feel a little bit like textbooks. But
because I love my hardcovers, but I started getting like other indie authors, like this one, Umbra. This looks amazing. I mean, like, look at this thing.
Wow.
So like, I just really want to up my game, to try to, get with everybody.
Yeah. No, the Platinum Tinted Darkness, that's the one with the woman in the silver armor on the cover?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a cool cover.
I love it. I love it. I just want to kind of do like a refresh, like a relaunch. And just try to get... So
I gotta do that for one of my book series too.
Yeah.
So I feel you there. Like I feel like I put too much, and I feel like all it needs is just for it to be chopped down just a little bit. Yeah.
There's so many little things that drive me crazy. Like someone pointed out that I have the word snicker like 75 times in my first book.
What?
And this is semicolons everywhere. Like there's a lot to fix. It's a lot of
gosh. Snickered.
Yeah. But what's weird is it's weird what you don't notice until people point it out. Look, I didn't skip any steps. I had an editor, I had beta readers. And then if you know Jackie, she was like, why are there so many Snickers in this book? I'm like, I don't know.
What?
I didn't want to have a laugh or a chuckle, so everyone Snickers. All Snickers all the time.
No, I was asking my wife I was asking JJ about words I overuse. And she said, well, you're obsessed with shoulders. People are always touching everybody's shoulders.
Yeah, shoulders are fun. It's because there's so much we could do with shoulders, especially as like dialogue actions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever used shoulder. Like give me an example, like if you can.
I think usually people, somebody will touch somebody else on their shoulder, put their hand on their shoulder or something to like that. Or one of the other things she says I do is the characters never sit, but they always stand up. They're always standing up.
I do that too. Yeah.
I made a
Like
joke.
I'm writing the book I'm writing now. I'm in the editing phase, and there's a scene where a guy gently places his hand on the other guy's shoulder 3 times in the same conversation, and I'm like, that probably doesn't happen in most conversations. So I got just
That's
imagine
funny.
someone just like, "Rah."
Yeah. No, I made a joke on Twitter a bit ago that, if you sit down in my books, someone will help you up, because it's always, Kanan, takes Spear's hand and helps her up, or somebody helps them up off the floor or out of their chair. Somebody, my JJ pointed that out to me once, and I was like, oh yeah, I do that a lot. But that's just part of their characters. It's part of how they relate to each other. There's always helping each other. So
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many different. Once you find a phrase you like, I think it's the one you go to at first chance.
yeah, I'm sure JJ could tell me, but I can't really think of one off the top of my head. I know. I have a bunch. I use marveled a lot. That somebody marveled at the beauty of something, or marveled at the sunset, or I use that. I think I use that a lot. But the thesaurus, the thesaurus in Word is my friend sometimes, because I'll overuse. Okay, I need a different version of this. I need to do something.
I have my thesaurus right here
do
with
something
me.
else.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I usually just literally Google what's another word for love, or just something like that, and then I find the best one.
I do that too. Do that too.
My biggest one is sigh. Everyone sighs all the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that one's true. I mean, people do sigh a lot in real life, so I don't feel bad about that.
Yes. For me, it's stared, and glanced. I love those words. I don't know why. Just like, it's a big deal if this character who doesn't like you is staring at you because something's about to happen. But again, hopefully, so far no one has counted it like Timothy had to deal with, but
yeah,
it might happen.
Well, at the end of the day, you learn from your mistakes and you go on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still happy with my first book. It's done well. Got its 50th rating on Amazon today, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was cool. And it's funny because like November sales have been horrible. So whatever, I'll take it. I'd rather get the reviews than the sales. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I finally just broke my zeros a couple weeks ago. So
yeah,
it takes a while for those reviews to roll by, honestly.
The novella does really well, but I sell it for 99 cents, so I get 30 cents per copy. And that will take a long time to, get grief.
We don't do this because we don't do this to make money. We do this for our characters, and we do this for our readers. So if we were doing it to make money, we'd be writing totally different things. We'd be writing paranormal romance. I think my wife,
erotica.
No, my wife was going through this. I don't remember all but paranormal romance or contemporary romance. All those were some of the highest grossing authors out there. So my mismatch of epic fantasy, cozy adjacent fantasy, it doesn't quite fit in anywhere.
Yeah. See, I'm not good at writing romance. I excel at like lizard people fighting people and magic and stuff. So I can't really get out of this space. I gotta just deal with what I have.
I mean, dude, you write what you like, and you write for those readers who like what you write. And, every story isn't for everyone. And, it's kind of hard when somebody says, oh, I really didn't like your book, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I've got a few of those, so I know that feeling very well.
Yeah. I mean, I got really, really depressed when somebody said, they didn't finish my book because of the relationships in it. Because I have a lot of polyamorous and bisexual relationships, and it wasn't just because they were objecting to it. It wasn't their thing, and they just kind of couldn't push past it. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I kind of, and I was, Yeah, it is what again. It is
I
what
know
it
it is
is,
what
and
it is.
we move forward. We write for those, you know. I write what I write. I write,
Yeah.
you know, I write epic fantasy that has high in dialogue. Is not high in, you know, action scenes or, you know, lots of description. So
Action
yeah.
scenes can be very difficult with Excalibur's Kings. I'm just like, am I writing too much of the sword fight or too little? And I think one of my challenges, like how Timothy was saying about romance, like Excalibur's King is kind of, there's some romance, but it took me so long to like feel complete with this story because I love to dive into the romance part. Like it's just a part of me. And the fighting scene, like how you were saying, the action scenes, it's just sometimes it's a risk. Am I writing too much? Like, is the reader going to get bored because their swords are still slashing about? Or, you know, it's hard to find that balance, I think.
Or am I writing not enough? Am I just writing a quick scene and do I need more detail in here? Do I need to, you know, every clash and parry? Do I need to go? It's
Yeah.
I think we had the big battle scene in Fairy Court in Exile, and that's the chapter that took the longest for us to get together, because we went through like 10 or 15 different revisions before my wife and I were happy with it, because, you know, that's not my focus. I focus on the interpersonal relationships. I focus on the conversations, and it's, I don't know, but you got to stretch yourself sometimes. You got to stretch yourself and, you know, do something that's uncomfortable for you, and, you know, see how it comes out. If it doesn't come out right, maybe you don't do, you cut that chapter, you cut that section, or you pound at it until you make it better, or at least to get to a point where it's not embarrassing.
Yes.
The last part of my finale of the trilogy is like 150 pages of pure action.
Wow.
And I kind of got around the monotony of it by just changing POVs all the time.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, you just kind of write the phrase "Zine swung his sword" like 100 times, and, you know, it kind of loses meaning after a while. But if you keep changing characters, you can kind of I think it keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
As long as they don't have the same fighting style, and then you're a little stuck. But,
oh yeah, you definitely have a blend of different type of fighters in yours right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I did a lot in the battle scene. There's going back and forth between, you know, there was a bunch of things happening in this battle. So, you know, you switch from here, switch from here. You know, it really does break up the monotony sometimes. So yeah, that's good advice.
One of the trends I'm seeing a lot in battle scenes, which I kind of like it, but not a lot, is they have like a no-name character point of view in a battle, and then someone kills that character, and then you take that POV, and that goes on for like 10 chapters. Have you guys seen that as well?
No, that's interesting.
Okay. I haven't seen that a lot lately, so maybe it's just what I read.
Is that character the MC or something, or just like
No, it's all just no-name throwaway characters from the battle. So it'll be like 5 pages of them, and then someone will stab him from behind, and then it jumps to the guy who just stabbed him, and then he gets shot in the head.
What?
Yeah. It's very chaotic. I like it, but it is a lot of chaos.
Wow. Yeah, that is a lot of chaos.
I don't like that way.
Yeah, for me, I still don't know, because long story short, I was in this car accident on Highway 99 when I was 13. Long story short, went into a coma, basically flew through the window, rolled in the highway. I have no memory of it. But I had a cast on my right arm, so I couldn't do any schoolwork. So my teacher would send me to the libraries, and that's how I got into fantasy. And the first book I read, I really liked it. I cannot tell you to this day the title. All I know is they killed the MC like 90% of the end of the book. They killed him off, and the POV went to his servant. And I was just like flabbergasted. I was just like, what's going on? Like, I was so attached to this character. But anyways, to this day, like when you mentioned that they changed POV, like I just thought of that.
Wow.
That's so bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you write multi POV, you can get away with killing people because there's other people to fall back on. But when you do like first person, it's very hard. I can't do it.
Mhm. Yeah. The servant got the girl too. It was
Ooh, okay. So the servant really had a good time for the most part.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was epic fantasy, I can tell you that much, but yeah.
I find that to write first person, you have to have a really strong character. That you have a really he or she has to have a really strong voice, and otherwise it doesn't really work. That you have to know that character inside and out, because the story I wrote for the Tales Untold anthology, it is first person, and from the moment I started writing him, I knew who he was, and I knew, and he had a really strong voice. He's a mercenary. He wouldn't call himself a mercenary because he's a freelancer.
Mercenary.
But yeah, so he's a really strong, strong moral code, but also a very strong voice. And I knew that voice from the very beginning. So it was very easy to write him as in first person.
Yeah, my novella is first person, and the point of view character is a murdering psychopath. So
Jesus.
on the bright side, I think the voice is strong, but it's a very unlikable character. So if they don't like the character, they don't like the book, which is, I mean, that's just fair.
Is he an unreliable narrator too?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I kind of when I finished my trilogy, I wanted to do something completely new. It's completely different, just so I didn't keep moving from the same stuff. So I wrote that, and it's been surprisingly well received for the most part. I really didn't know what people would think.
I feel like every time I log on Twitter, I see someone holding that book.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think like it's a lot easier to get someone to read a 70-page book than like a 1,200-page trilogy.
Yeah.
That's why most of my newer books are shorter. That Air's about 500 pages, and the rest of them have been decreasingly going down. I think Mother of Exiles is somewhere in the 300 high 300s. I think Fairy Court in Exile was somewhere around there too. So that was one of the things my wife told me. Shorter books, shorter chapters. Shorter chapters are easier to edit. So do the shorter chapters. Keep them under 2,000. Keep them 2,000, 3,000 words. They're much easier to do that. Much easier to edit and do that way.
Yeah, I think I did like a little research based off how many characters per chapter, and I think I compared like the popular authors online, and I think it was like how you said 2,000 to 4,000 per chapter was like a good spot to keep readers going. I stopped using that example, but I just thought of that when you mentioned it. Shorter chapters.
Yeah, and it's for her they're easier to edit too. So you can do them in one sitting. So yeah, and when I write over, she'll be, "Oh, this was the chapter from hell because it's too long." We got to figure out where to break it up. So, and that's fun too, figuring out where you can make a change.
When my first book was in the beta reader stage, I had a chapter that was like 12,000 words. I think that's 25, 30 pages. And she was like, "Listen, you have to cut this down. This is ridiculous." So I cut it in half, and it works way better. I think giving people stopping points is more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And one thing have you guys read Dark Bloom by any chance from Molly Macabre? I haven't seen her.
I haven't.
Her chapters are really short, like 3 pages per chapter. And it drove me crazy at first, but then I realized I read the full book in like 2 days. So it's definitely effective. Like it kind of tricks you into keep reading. Yeah.
Or depending how it ends.
It's smart.
Yeah. I think my lights are going weak. There we go. Okay. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
but
that's smart to have such short chapters that you can. Yeah, that's smart. You can have those short chapters that you can kind of breeze through, and you don't kind of realize you're halfway through the book.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. So I've been trying to like emulate that because I think I don't want to call it manipulating, but it definitely nudges you to keep going.
Hey, whatever works.
Because like if it's 11 o'clock at night and I see 30 minutes for the next chapter on my Kindle, I go to bed.
Right?
Yep.
Do you guys struggle? Like when you're writing, say, the first draft, do you find yourself struggling in the beginning or in the infamous middle? or in the end.
The middle is hell.
Yeah,
It
same.
really is. Like I've kind of stalled on my current
Yeah.
novel at the 40,000 word point. It's so stressful because you've already put a lot of work in, but you're nowhere near done.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like,
exactly how it feels.
yeah. That's why I love novellas. Miriam, do you write any novellas?
Excalibur's King was supposed to be a novella, and then it just
okay.
Yeah. No, I'm just starting my little short story gig, my ridiculous holiday
I
short
love those.
stories.
I've read the first
That
one. I
is-
gotta read the second one.
Yeah, it's so hard to write a 10,000 limit like manuscript. It's so however it's being received, it's however it's going to be being received. But I know I'm gaining a lot of experience from it, and I that's exactly what I wanted from this, because I plan on doing like a mini fantasy short story series where it's just ridiculous. Kind of like how you wrote your novella. You just kind of wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And just have like no boundaries for it. And that's kind of what made me do that. But yeah.
It kind of reminded me. Have you read any of Kat Kinney's book? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
No, I have not.
Fire.
I have not.
She has what do you call it when it's fantasy in the same world we live in? Contemporary, I think.
Yeah.
So
urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, yeah.
It depends. If it's heavily on romance, it would be considered paranormal romance. If it's more like on like how he was saying, like city, they're mostly in the city and it's just fantasy and these characters, and it would fall under the urban fantasy category.
Yeah, because like where I was going with that was she'll have like vampires discuss TikTok and stuff. And that's kind of the vibe I got from your book, because like there's always craziness going on, and then they're talking about Netflix, and I'm like, I love this.
That's the one thing about writing in a contemporary world, that people can have cell phones and they can watch TV, and that you don't have those things unless you're doing a magic thing in fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so yeah, and I was talking about the Rose character, and her character journey was really important to me. So it was really, I spent a lot of time tracking her character growth from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, and it was so exhausting. And by the time I finished it, I was glad I was done. I was happy with what I had. I don't know if I'll be happy when I go back to edit it and see what I wrote, because I haven't looked at it in almost a couple years now. But I needed to take a break after that because I was just so exhausted, because her journey was just so important. Yeah, it was just so important that I get all these beats right. That is, she doesn't make a big leap from being one thing to being another thing. So it was, I understand, Tim, you need to take a break from your series and just do something, quick one-off.
Yeah. Well, I rushed, not rush, but I made sure to work on all 3 books in a row, the trilogy, because I don't take notes or anything. It's all up here. So if I ever lose that, I'm screwed. I got nothing else.
Don't lose it then, Tim.
That's why like rewriting the first book has been hard, because there's so many things I forgot about. Like it's one of the funny things is there's a big emphasis on tariffs in the first book, and like that's relevant in this day and age. I totally forgot about that. That's like, people may think I'm writing like in commentary of what's going on, but it's something I wrote 3 years ago and had no relevance at all.
Yeah. It's weird how things go in cycles, or you think about I do this a lot, where I'll just kind of throw in a small detail, and then it'll grow into something bigger throughout the book or to the next book, because that's what happened with Spear's character. She in book 1, she's one of the soldiers, and she's in the background a bunch. She has a few things to do. And then she becomes a bigger role in book 2, and then she's one of the main characters in book 4. So it's fun how you can see a character grow, from a simple like tossed off almost careless line that becomes something bigger. And that's one of the great things I love about being a writer, is I can when you make these connections between two things that weren't meant to be together, and you realize, oh, they are really connected. So, and that's one of those writer's hives that I'm always chasing. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Well, we're all pantsers, right? We all agreed on that.
Oh yeah.
So I
Yep.
kind of think that's a big part of it because I'll make characters up in the blue. They're called placeholder, and then next thing you know, they're like the king, and you have no idea how they got there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's so weird because it's really the whole creativity is so strange. Because I mean, it comes from somewhere, but you just make up a character, and then they have an entire journey. There was no inspiration. There was no planning. It's just like this guy is now important.
That's what I love about pantsing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in Mother of Exiles, there's this character. She's a thorn maiden who are the women protectors of the forest, and she just appears in this in the. I started writing her, and I had this name of Heron. That was her name, and I didn't know anything about her. And just as I was writing, I was developing her more, and she became. I didn't have a description for her, so of course the name Heron. She's tall and she's got long.
Yeah.
She's tall with long arms and legs, and very graceful. And it just expanded out from there. And just figured out this character and what her relationships are to the rest of the maidens, and it was really fun to explore this character that just jumped out at me with the name. It started with the name. That was all I had at the moment, and you just went from there. And that's really
have you guys ever
really exciting.
Have you guys ever ran into like you have this plan that you're going to kill this character and that character ends up surviving? Like you end up not killing them off?
I had the opposite. So at the end of my first book, I kind of realized I made a plot hole. And I filled that plot hole with the body of another character.
Oh, wow.
And that was like the only time I ever got sad running a character death, because it was like, you weren't supposed to die, but duty calls. So
Yeah.
that was definitely unexpected.
Yeah, I sort of had that. I was trying to figure out how there's a big betrayal in book 2. I was trying to figure out how that betrayal would work, and my first idea was what this character would betray them in some ways, and then I realized that Talia would kill her, and I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't face, because I had you put in a lot of emotions into your characters, and I put a lot of emotion into this character, and just the idea of her being killed, I couldn't deal with that. So I had to that was my first idea, and then I went through a couple other things until I finally landed on what actually happens in book 2. So that's probably as close as I've come to that. I've had some surprising deaths. And especially in book 2, and in the coming book, in book 5, which is going to be the sequel to Mother of Exiles, there's a couple of surprising deaths in there.
Is that the only series that you're working? Do you have any other work in progresses? I know most of us, famously, I'm sure everyone in the chat would agree that we have a bunch of work in progresses. Do you have any of those, Joel?
No, I'm pretty much working on this one. I've got a couple other things that I'm doing. As I've got a couple contemporary stories, which I call it, they're sort of trunk novels. They're just things I wrote because I had these images of these characters in my head, and I just wanted to write about them. And I had this storyline that I wanted to write, and I just did. And I don't know I don't know if those books will ever see the light of day. I may not even show them to my wife ever, just because they're kind of personal, but they're also kind of they're kind of out there. The storylines are kind of they're very soap opera. They're very soap opera, and they're very melodramatic, and it's just that's how I was feeling.
Anything with drama, I'll eat it up.
So
I'll just say that.
Yeah,
it's funny. I know we all do.
See.
It's like you kind of take like really sensitive aspects about your own life and kind of shroud them in obscurity.
Or you
like
take a little part.
Yeah, little part. Like there's a lot of like depressing overtones that I kind of borrow from myself and put into a crazy character. And it's weird how you can kind of get away with being personal but write fantasy. You're not exactly saying I am sad. You're saying he's sad.
He's sad.
It's like,
and that's how you're an artist. It's everything you do is like you take a piece of yourself, and subconsciously most of the time, I think, until maybe we later realize, wow, I reflect with this character so much. And I think you mentioned, Timothy, in your last live was it Francis that you felt like you
Oh yeah.
related to the most?
So
That surprised me.
I don't. For anyone who's read my story, you know Francis. He's very snooty. He's very anxious. He just kind of doesn't like anybody, but he wants to be loved. And I put a lot of my really annoying traits into him. And at first, the first response to that was overwhelmingly negative. Everyone hated this character. So I had to tone it down. I was like, all right, listen, you got problems, but we got to take that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you take these you'll take these bits of yourself and the bits of self you witness with other people, because I've worked retail for 29 years, so I've interacted with a lot of different people, and had a lot of good bosses, had a lot of bad bosses. So you take these experiences in your life and you put them into the characters, and you take one thing, it's a lot of you're building a Lego set. You're taking something here, something from here, something from there, and it's really fun, because the bad store manager I had, she influenced a lot of the villains that are in the first two books.
Yeah, when it comes to customer service, one thing I learned is, like, you can't hold back in your writing, in your creative writing, how bad these characters can be. Just how people can surprise you, honestly.
Yep.
But like, if I can give any advice, unsolicited advice, try to put your traits into the villains and not the heroes. So that way you can write a hateable character, but at the same time they're sympathetic. Because you're like, I get why you're a jerk, and I'm sorry you're that way.
That's a good tip. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just me, but I find with the recent years, I've been having trouble writing my villains, just because of there's so much things going on in the real world, that to write these write these truly evil characters just became very difficult for me in some ways. So I don't know how that has affected you guys or not, but I don't know if that's something.
Well, I'm gonna humble brag here, and I think Arrogance is an excellent villain. I'm very critical of myself, so when I do good, I'm gonna call it out. So I think I really nailed Arrogance in the last book. He's such
he looks
a delusional dickhead is really the only way I can describe it.
I mean, with that face he has, I can't disagree,
Yeah. But it's fun because he really does believe he's the good guy. And I think that's important when you write a bad guy.
Oh yeah, that's important. But the villain is the hero of his story. Yeah,
Right.
that's very important.
Cause he's so mad at the other characters for fighting him. He's like, "Why are you guys so stupid? Just let me win. Why are you like? What are you guys?"
That just makes me mad hearing it like that.
Yeah, he's like, "You guys are all fools. I'm a god. I've been here forever. Let me run things. I got good ideas."
Yeah, Wingless, my main villain in the first two books. He's chaos. He's fire and dry grass. He's a bad guy. He's a really bad guy. He brags that he was born corrupt and he's stayed corrupt. Because to be corrupt, to gain his power, he has to be corrupt. So that's his whole thing. That's the whole idea of how he gains his power. Is he's got to be corrupt. He's got to be evil. So, that's. I mean, you just have to get into the right headspace at sometimes. Another writer gave me the advice that maybe put on a hat. That this is your villain hat. Yeah. So when you're writing them, put on this hat, and then you can take that hat off and set it aside, and you can take that, put that character away for a little bit. So I haven't written him in a while, so we'll see if I go back into it.
AJ Calvin's in the chat, and I want to give her a shout out because Colin is one of the most insufferable characters I've ever seen. He has no redeeming qualities at all. It's just absolute is evil in every scene he's in. And sometimes that's the best villain.
That's a good villain. That's a good villain, then.
There's there's no tragic backstory. There's no reason. He's just a horrible person, and you got to deal with him.
I'm kind of distracted by your wall, Joel. Are those ribbons or what am I looking?
Yes, those are cat show ribbons. We used to show cats.
What?
We had we used to
You have cats now? Could you show us your
yeah,
cats?
they're in the other room.
Oh.
This is the computer room, or used to be the computer room where computers, we've been, this is before we had all our laptops. But yeah, they're ribbons. We went to cat shows. We had some purebred cats that we were showing. We had, essentially bought them from a breeder, and we had a couple Maine Coons that we were showing. Maine Coons are big. They're really big cats.
Yeah,
they're big fluffy cats with big ear tips. And we were also showing some of our cats in the household pet class, which is for pretty much any cat that's not purebred, or purebred cats that have something that disqualifies them from being shown as purebred cats. We had a Burmese for a while, and they're brown cats, and he had a white locket, which disqualifies him as for being a purebred, because the purebred Burmese have to have a pure brown coat. It's a very light chocolate brown coat. They're wonderful cats. Burmese cats are pretty much dogs in former life, because they will sit on you. They will want to be with you all the time. Thunder was a wonderful cat, and I miss him so much. But yeah, that's what those other hand.
That's amazing.
That's what those ribbons are. Yep, that's our. And we stopped doing that when I took another job. When I took a different job at the retail place I work at, and my schedule really got really strange. We used to have weekends off, so we could, leave on Friday, go to a cat show all weekend, and come back on Monday. But once my schedule changed, it just became we couldn't do it anymore, and then it became very expensive. Because these cat shows have they have a lot of overheads. They have to charge. They have to charge a lot for their gate, and they have to charge a lot for their entries. So it just became too expensive, and we didn't have any cats we could really show anymore. So that's that's the way.
I have 0 ribbons or rewards, but I do have scotch. So I'm doing something.
I have my Xbox controller.
Nice.
Yeah, I have no ribbons. That's cool. That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see over here. This is a poster. This is I don't know if you're familiar with Melanie Ron. She writes the Dragon Prince series, and they came out in the 80s and early 90s. They were very influential on me.
I like the title.
They're very hot. It's a Michael Wieland print. On all her covers were done by him, the very famous fantasy author. But they're was it Dragon Prince? I think is the first series, and there's something other. I don't remember what the other. There's two sets of trilogies that are set in this world, and it's about dragons and set in a desert section. And her magic system was very interesting. They're called sun runners, and they take their power from the sun, and also from starlight, sunlight and starlight. And it's very interesting, and I think there's a lot of weaving light in her magic. So I think that has influenced the how the fairy magic works, and the idea of weaving has influenced my writing a lot. But that's one of her books are amazing. You got to check her out, Melanie Ron. And I remember I was reading one book, and I had to skip to the end. I had to read the end to make sure, because these main characters are still alive at the end of the book, because she puts her, talk about putting your characters through hell. She does. And it was really, maybe I was in them, but they're really great books. They're really great books.
I was wondering if people actually do that, like just read like the last pages of like a book, because someone finished the entire Children of Rima of book 1, and I kid you not, I see page reads of the 3rd book, like 17 of them, and I'm like, what's going on? You skipped book 2.
That happened to me this week. Yeah, someone read all of Platinum Into Darkness, and then they read Age of Arrogance. I'm like, dude, you're missing so much of the story. What are you doing?
You missed the middle, man.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone in that.
No, that actually really freaked me out, because I was like, what? I'm not complaining, but I don't know what you're doing, man. I write the numbers of the books on the. I hope they don't think that was the second book, or that'd be really confused.
That crossed my mind too.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the first part.
Have you ever accidentally started a book series in, I started I don't know if you know the Dragonlance books. There's
Oh, I
two
do,
main
yeah.
trilogies. The Chronicles is the first one, and Legends is the second trilogy. And for some reason, I started with Legends and read, because those are fantastic books. Those are another fantastic Margaret West and Tracy Hickman. That trilogy is amazing. But I started there, and I knew enough. I could figure out enough through context clues to follow everything.
Yeah.
But then I went back and read Chronicles, and everything makes more sense now. Now I understand what they're talking.
I did that with. Do you guys know E.C. Greaves, Daughter of the Beast? You've probably seen it on Twitter. Well, I read his first book and I really liked it, so I went on to what I thought was the second book, and I was like, "What the hell is going on? They skipped a lot of time here." And then I realized, like 20 pages in, because not to spoil, but one of the characters is pregnant at the end of the first book, and in the third book, the kid's like already talking and stuff, and I'm like, "What the hell happened? What is going on?" You know?
That's a time jump there.
I was really annoyed, but that was totally my fault.
So what are some, I've talked about some of my influences. What are some of your influences, Tim, Miriam?
I'm really terrible about talking about my stories. Timothy, do you want to go first?
No, I mean, you've already got the ball rolling, so you gotta
so I guess Excalibur's King, just out of the blue, I was in my mom's kitchen and I'm like, I feel like writing a story about a dude with a sword, and I used Arthurian as my inspiration. But I guess with Children of Rima, it wasn't supposed to be a light versus dark theme. I suck. I can't talk about my book. It is what it is. It's just
That's fine.
So my primary series, I have all three right here. I wanted to make a video game, and if you've read them, you probably understand that because that's how it's written. I didn't realize that lit RPG was a thing until much later.
Oh
Because
yeah.
like my struggle with writing battles is like when someone stabs you, you can't just say you took 16 points of damage. You got to address the fact there's a knife in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize you don't have to do that at all. You can lit RPG is extraordinarily popular right now. And
yes.
I probably wouldn't have wrote it that way just because it's not my style, but it's very interesting.
Oh yeah, it is popular from what I've seen, especially like in other medias. There's one I kind of want to write that is kind of in that direction, but I would have to know the style and read more because people who normally read lit RPG are going to expect a certain style versus like how I write right now.
Yeah, and I get nervous. Some of my reviews, my positive reviews, say that I write lit RPG, and I'm like, I don't.
I don't know what that means.
I'll take the stars, but I don't. I never comment on reviews unless it's like a friendly. But I do get nervous when false statements are made because I don't want to get 1 stars, in return.
Yeah, I think. Oh look, Calvin wrote.
Yeah. Well, that was the inspiration because I was playing WoW at the time, and then I was in the middle of COVID and I was going through a divorce. So I was like, man, I need something to dive into, just get my life, distractions. And there's nothing more distracting than writing a 1,200-page trilogy. So that was my road to writing.
Oh yeah, Air and On the Shore of the Sea kept me sane through COVID because I started it in September 2019, and just we were in the editing process when things started locking down, and my wife lost her job, and so she said, "Okay, well, you've wrote this book, I'll edit it." So that's what she started doing. So yeah, it kept me sane, and it was one of those things that there's a lot of racial overtones in the books, especially between the fairies and the humans and the half fairies. So that's what I was writing about, and that's what was on my mind. And because there's a lot of influence surprisingly from MASH. There's a few episodes of MASH that really address how half Korean children are treated.
That's fascinating.
And that really influenced how the Elianites are treated by their parents and by the mothers. And there's this thing called the shrines outside the exile forest where mothers can leave their children, and they will be picked up and cared for by the maidens and the brothers, and will be taken in, and that they take them in, no questions asked. That they'll of course try to talk to the mothers, and you try to, if you want to stay, you can. This is a really great place. You can be anything you want. You don't have to be just a mother and a wife. You can do other things that you want to do. And some stay, some don't. But it's that was really influenced by MASH and also by Miss Saigon. I don't know if you've seen the musical, but that's a major plot point in Miss Saigon, of how these half Korean children were products of the not half Korean. Half Korean would be from MASH, but half Vietnamese for Miss Saigon. How they're treated by their society, and how they're pretty much abandoned by everybody on their by the soldiers that created them, and by the society. So that's one of the things that really that influenced me, and is a really big through line through all these books, is how these half fairies have to find their own way in the world, that they aren't accepted by the fairy society. They're not accepted by the human society. They have to kind of build their own lives and their own thing. And that's what the exile forest pretty much is they're building a society of their own, where they can protect their own, and they can and they can be safe from both fairies and humans.
Well, that's fascinating. That's a really bold subject matter to go after.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a much more simple man. I kind of just write lizard people fighting gods and stuff.
And I just love to add the romance into it in fantasy.
Yeah.
But
I also don't try to beat people over the head with it. It's just part of the world. Yeah. It's part of the it's part of the world. It's part of this society. That's the way it is what it is, and you have to deal with it. It's not, I guess I'm a little bit on a soapbox, but not too much.
Yeah. What's really funny on that subject was when we were doing the buddy read, I came across the term fairy fever, and I was asking people, I was like, is that a slang thing or is that an actual illness? Because I've heard the real life version of that, and I wasn't sure if that's where you're going with it.
Yes, that's where I was. That's definitely where I was going with that.
Yeah, so I thought so, but I wanted to get confirmation, because I was like, I might be reading this really wrong. I just want to make sure I'm on the right page.
Yeah. It's that's that was it.
It reminds me, what you're saying reminds me of a saying in Spanish, ni de aquí ni de allá. It's like when you're like, say, like, I'm Mexican American, right? So born in California, have family in Mexico. So it's like you're neither from, like, that's basically translations, not from here and not from there, like culturally wise, or like and that kind of made me think of like how your fairies, like the hybrids, basically, how they're neither fully of one side or neither of the other. That's a cool concept.
Yeah, and they're treated badly by both sides. They become servants. They become, the humans treat them. They're humans. The fairies treat them all right. Humans treat them very badly. They're used as cannon fodder, essentially. They're used as frontline troops. They're used as servants to do the menial work, the dirty jobs, and the things that we'll get an Elianite to do it, sort of thing. And it's you see these things in the real world, and you can't help but reflect them into your writing. And you see people complaining about politics and writing. All writing is political. Even if it's just,
you can make it political, like in this day of age.
And it is what it is, and you gotta. These characters live in this world, and if they aren't talking about these things, if it isn't affecting them, there's something wrong. There's a little bit something wrong with your world building if you aren't looking at the consequences of what's going on. And you run into these consequences all the time. I ran into it with the fairies, that the fairies with the fairies, they control their fertility. They can, choose whether they can have a children or not and have with whom they have them. So that I ran into that and like, wait, okay. So fairies are, they can control their fertility. What, how does that affect their society? And how does that, how does that affect, because there's very few Elianites who have fairy mothers. Most of them are, have human mothers. So, and that's, I kind of bumped into that and like, okay, this is going to affect pretty much everything else going forward. When I kind of realized that, that's what's going on when I was shaping these stories. So, it is, it's people praise me for my world building, but I kind of just, it is, I start with the characters and I start with these situations and it just grows from there. And you just kind of take it where it organically goes. And as pantsers, that's what we do. We grow these gardens, and sometimes you run into a blind alley and you have to back yourself out of it, or you realize, oh, I can put a hole in that wall and I can crawl through it and I can do this cool thing here. So it's again, one of the
such
fun,
a great
best
feeling
things
when you're stuck pantsing and you figure it out.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Figure out the bridge to that next scene.
Yep.
Or when you get this cool idea, you have to go like a few chapters back to kind of implement that cool idea.
Yep. I got character at A. They want to go to C. What's B? If you're trying to figure out, B. Yeah. And I ran into that when I was writing book 2. And, when I finally got that idea, okay, I know what's happening. I can go forward. I got this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to read the room here. We've been going for an hour and a half.
Oh, yes, we have.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it sleepy time?
I think we can. Well, I got to finish my laundry and get ready to go to work tomorrow. So
yeah.
Yep. But it was great talking to you both.
Oh, this was a great time. I really appreciate you having us. This is wonderful.
I'm glad you accepted this invitation to celebrate my new book, and hopefully we can do something like this for when you guys' books come out. That would be great.
Yeah, I dropped the ball. I've released 5 books or 4 books, and I've done this for none of them. So it's definitely
This is the first one I've done. So that's we figure things out as we go along.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But if Adrian's still watching, thank you for hosting this. This was
yes,
an awesome
thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
Thank you everyone who's in the chat who stayed with us.
Yes,
and
thank you all for coming.
One last question before we go to Miriam.
Okay.
When are you revealing Adam's new cover? Because I really want to see it.
Oh, Adam's still there. Adam, do you want to answer that one? When are you going to reveal the book cover? I cannot. But I don't want to mess with his.
No, I understand. That's okay. I'm happy to wait.
It's coming soon.
But yeah.
Might be
really
by the end of this year or the beginning of next.
Okay, cool. Very cool. But, all right. I don't know how we end these things.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I got the end stream up here.
Oh,
so
okay.
Thank you all for coming and listening to us ramble on for an hour and 23 minutes. And I'll see you all somewhere else on the internet.
Do we wave as it ends, or how do we?
Bye, guys.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Adios.
Hey.